Last time on Power Reviews, Database Ranger tackled the true origins of the Power Rangers Samurai.
We do get an effective and functionally complete origin story.
But Dr. K introduced a shocking twist.
What about part 2?
How will our reviewing hero tackle this challenge? Find out next on Database Ranger's Power Reviews.
I can't believe I forgot about part 2. Greetings Ranger fans, and welcome back to Power Reviews. Sorry about the interruption there, I just sort of needed a moment to gather my thoughts. In case you didn't know, these two episodes weren't originally intended as a two-parter. The episode we looked at last time was originally titled Call of the Red Ranger, while the episode we're looking at today was called Rise of the Megazord. However, in light of Nickelodeon's interesting choices regarding the airing schedule, it was decided these two episodes would best be presented as a packaged two-part event. But I don't want to bore you with too much background information.
Too late.
So let's dive right back in with episode 20 of Power Rangers Samurai, Origins, Part 2. We sort of pick up where we left off. The Rangers are settling in and enjoying a lesson on their samurai symbol powers from Mentor G. Jaden's power is fire, Mia is wind, and Kevin and Emily both have the power of clumsy physical comedy. Mike, on the other hand, is having some trouble focusing.
Mike, you must practice more.
How about a lunch break? You'd be amazed at how well I practice after a few slices of pizza.
A green guy named Mike who likes pizza. Why does that sound so familiar? On his ship in the Netherworld, Master Xandred bemoans his ever-present headache and fantasizes what it will be like when he finally succeeds in flooding the human world. Meanwhile, Octoroo has been reading Demonology for Dummies and discovers a way to accomplish their goals.
If we scare those humans, their tears will fill our river and we can escape the Netherworld.
Ever the pointy-headed boss, Xandred claims the idea for his own and summons a monster.
Scorpionic, get over here! Get over here!
Master, you rang?
No, he didn't. Back in the human world, Kevin trains while Mike... Stop that! Mike taunts Kevin into some awkward sparring. Unfortunately for the fanfic writers, their cuddle time is quickly interrupted by Mia.
Hey guys, I can't find Emily.
Showing far more concern for Emily than they do for Mike and the team unites, the three Rangers hit the streets, passing a bus stop on the way, where we meet a new arrival and an old friend. It's really cool to see how much Bulk has changed in Season 1. For instance, he's bald now. And a lot nicer. I do have to wonder what happened to Club Bulkmeyer, though. And how he got the club to begin with, and how he got back from Miranoi after Lost Galaxy. You know what, we can talk about this later. Bulk is joyously reunited with his favorite nephew.
How's Skull? I mean, your dad.
I knew it! I mean, it's hardly a surprise. We all kind of knew. But this is actual on-screen confirmation that Spike is Skull's son. Of course, that raises a whole set of other questions, like who his mother is, when he was actually born, is he Bulk's biological nephew, or is it just a term of endearment? I actually have a rather extensive set of theories covering all of these questions and more, all outlined in my upcoming book, The Life and Times of Bulkmeyer and Skullovich, Heroes of Horath. Still looking for a publisher. But I digress. Back to the plot. Well, I call it a plot, but it's really sort of a non-conflict. I know they're looking for Emily, but there's one big gap here that just sucks away all the dramatic tension. Have you looked at their Samurizers? Their communication devices, their morphers, are cell phones. Has anyone thought to call her? Has anyone, at any point, while wandering around this city that's large enough for a giant monster to use as a playground, instead of hollering her name into crowds of random people, just tried giving her a call? I mean, I know Emily is supposed to be just a country girl, but I think she knows how a phone works. Plus, they find her less than 8 minutes into the episode. She was in the park. Just practicing in the park. I don't know why she was in the park, and we never find out why. We could have actually skipped this whole plotline, and it would have had no effect on the rest of the episode. It's times like this I think Jaden was right about wanting to work alone. Scorpionic emerges from a gap to attack the city, setting off G's gap sensors and... Look, they're back at the Sheba house now! I don't think Jaden even knew they were gone! If I'm gonna get over this, I'm gonna need to see some explosions fast.
Move your tail!
Thank you! The Rangers leap into action, each of them tackling the Moogers with their special attacks, until Jaden notices that Scorpionic is still laying waste to the city. While the two do battle, Emily learns that her Earth Slicer does not in fact act as a boomerang, allowing the monster to land a critical hit on the Red Ranger. Deciding that her hands would provide better protection for Jaden than the sword directly in front of her, Emily flings out her arms, while the rest of the team once again lets their concern for her override their common sense, and everyone is caught in the attack. You know, guys, when I said Jaden was right about wanting to work alone, this wasn't what I meant. With everybody else demorphed, Jaden returns to the battle, fighting to protect a young girl lost in the rubble. The Red Ranger's heroic deed stirs the rest of the team back to action, and they finally think to use their weapons to counter the Nilok's attack. With Scorpionic temporarily stunned, the Rangers deliver their so very pretty quintuple slash attack, knocking the monster down for the count. But things aren't done, and of course we all know the real reason for this episode is to show off their brand new Megazord combination. And what a combination it is! I mean, it's no pyramidas, but it's something. The team decides to take Jaden's lead this time round and summon the real Samurai Megazord, facing off against the monster one-on-one. Whoa! The Moogers can grow too? That can't be good. Fortunately, they're still no match for the awesome power and strength of the Samurai, and are quickly dispatched, leaving Scorpionic with no defense against the Megazord's Samurai Strike. The battle won, the Rangers return home and reassure Emily that she's not a total screw-up.
You did great, Emily.
Just to clarify, brushstrokes in the wrong order?
Mike, you must practice more.
Get the whole team knocked out by a monster attack?
You did great, Emily.
Noticing a disconnect here? Regardless, Mike decides to celebrate by showing off his new samurai symbol. Fun. Which obviously summons confetti, but unless it also summons background music, must appear really awkward to the rest of the team. And that's the end of our episode. So what did I think of it? Well, overall, this one really feels less like the continuation of a two-parter and more like a slice of life episode, shifting focus away from Jaden and G and over onto the rest of our cast. Now, I know I said that the search for Emily had no real bearing on the rest of the episode, and that's kind of true. However, the conversations that emerge from that framing device do have considerable impact on the show as a whole. The really fascinating thing about this episode is just how much setup there is. The most obvious thing to come out of this subplot is Emily's relationship with her sister Serena, and how she is covering for her during her illness, which is expounded upon during Sticks and Stones. We are also introduced to her clumsiness and lack of self-confidence, which are also tackled in Sticks and Stones, and are defeated in the following season with A Strange Case of the Munchies. During the search, we learn about Mia's desire to find her Prince Charming, which is built up during Deal with a Nilok, and ties into her motivations in There Go the Brides, which in turn marks the beginning of her rivalry with Dayu, a major defining aspect of her character. As they move through the city, they pass a bus carrying Spike, which leads into the reintroduction of Bulk, who establishes his desire to train Spike in the ways of the samurai, which becomes the major driving motivation of their characters throughout the series. Earlier in the episode, we see Mike's disregard for training and discipline, which majorly ties into the plotline of The Team Unites. This early character arc is also bookended by the fact that he can't get his samurai symbols down, and then finally figures them out in the opening scene of A Deal with a Nilok. We are also introduced to his rivalry with Kevin, which is a driving force behind his rash decisions in The Team Unites and Forest for the Trees, ultimately growing to a mutual respect in the following season with a sticky situation. Of course, Kevin's side of the rivalry is driven by his obsessive commitment to samurai training, which acts as his primary motivator throughout the series, allowing him to push through his mission with the swordfish sword and a fish out of water, makes him a dangerous foe in I've Got a Spell on Blue, and leads to his conflict with Antonio in The Blue and the Gold. We also see his denial over how much his swimming career means to him, which he comes to terms with and Deal with a Nilok, and actually gets a face in the following season with Kevin's choice. More like Kevin Bacon's choice, everything's connected!
New symptom. Delusions of conspiracy.
And that's not even getting into part one, which, apart from the origin story, also introduces Jaden's desire not to place others in harm's way, which ends up being the driving force behind his actions in, I don't know, every Jaden Focus episode. Plus, they even foreshadow Mia's love of cooking.
Did someone order a chopped Mooger salad?
Yeah, she just said that, and I bet it tasted terrible. I am amazed at all the little character arcs that I didn't even know were arcs the first time through. Like I said in my review of The Team Unites, decontextualization can be a huge problem. When you have payoff without lead-in, you rob stories of their dramatic tension. Now, should these episodes be able to stand on their own merits? Of course, but shows nowadays are designed to be enjoyed on two levels, episodically and as a series. And the airing order of these episodes is heavily damaging to the serialized aspect of the stories. So, if you're somebody who has only watched a few episodes or is watching Power Rangers Samurai for the first time, I heavily recommend starting with Origins. Trust me, it'll make you a lot happier. Now, back to the episode itself. Although I obviously have issues with the way the subplots are presented, we do get the benefit of seeing the Rangers actually work together and face their first real challenge. Scorpionic is a nasty fighter that rains down destruction on the city, and really shows the Rangers that not every battle will be an easy one. Overall, a solid pair of introduction episodes, even if they are a bit weak on internal logic. However, as individual episodes, they really don't stand well on their own, heavily relying on clumsy expositional dialogue, which doesn't translate smoothly from its Japanese source material. Plus, there's a real lack of an internal arc to these episodes, with no defined sense of rising conflict or conclusion. I can only hope that all this setup will pay off later. Now make sure to join me next week when I'll be jumping ahead, or skipping back, to the episodes that lead us into Power Rangers Super Samurai, the Tengen Gate, and Boxed In. And I may have an extra little treat for you guys in the meantime. Until then, farewell Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.